recognize the signs, recognize the restlessness, recognize when you're starting to get bored, when you're irritated for no particular reason, when you're frustrated, when you're a little bit like, okay, what am I going to do? I was looking at this quote, and the quote said, change is inevitable, but transformation is by conscious choice. And that is by Heather Amara. That is so, so true, because change is going to come whether you like it or not. Greetings, this is Coach Charlene, and welcome to When the Moment Chooses You. I am your host, and I absolutely love interviewing trailblazers and change agents that dare to disrupt their lives and the systems that they work for. So today I'm going to do a solo episode, and because I'm approaching almost a year into this journey in July, audience, it will be 1 year since I've been consistently putting out content, which is absolutely a miracle because I never thought I would be able to do that. But, when you really get a dream in your heart and then you put in the work to go after it, it is such a rewarding feeling. But, throughout our journeys and our careers, I'm sure you have hit some moments where you felt like, oh my gosh, is this really what I'm still destined to do? I'm a little frustrated. I'm a little restless, and I'm not quite sure what that is. And so I wanted to actually talk about today aligning with your why. And when I say aligning with your why, I mean, there are certain things that we do that may be a job, but then there's other things that we do in our lives that actually is the work. And for me, the way that I'm defining it is that a job is just something that you do. A work is something that you're called to do. And I'd like to unpack some of that as I go throughout the rest of the series, in addition to interviewing other wonderful guests. So I know for me, throughout my career, I've always noticed that there has always been something a little bit more calling me. I mean, I told you guys my story already. At 17 and a half, I decided, oh my gosh, I need to do something. I need to get out of where I am. And so I joined the United States Army, and I was in there for approximately 3 years. And that was such a powerful move for me. It was one of those destiny moments that you knew you had to do. And so I jumped into that, and I start pursuing really my nursing career because I was a medic in the military. And as I got out of the military, I went ahead and challenged the LVN board, and then went to get my bachelor's and so on and so on. I got my master's. So definitely excited about achieving my nursing degrees and all of the other work that I've done. But, about 10 years into the game, there was this sense of restlessness that happened. I call it unrest, that began to start happening. And what I noticed is, I'm starting to lose a little bit of the momentum that I once had when I started. And so, you keep grinding because you're taught to grind. You're taught to keep doing what you got to do and make sure you're working hard and all of that. But then if you get quiet enough, you'll start listening to yourself, and you'll start hearing yourself get frustrated, maybe even become irritated more easily, a little bit bored. But you feel this uneasiness on the inside of you, and you continue to bury the voice out. You continue to not really pay attention to it. And you continue doing and just pushing through and doing the things that you're doing. And I'm saying that happened to me. So when I got to that space, I can tell you the moment that it happened. It was in 2010. In 2010, I had got to a place of burnout. I was still my happy self. I was still coming and doing what I needed to do. But then I started noticing within myself that something is not right. Like, why am I a little bit on the frustrated side? Why am I starting to get drained? I start asking myself those questions. And that's where I recognize that I had just been doing my job and the meaning had left. And so that's why I think being able to discover and align your why is so critical for what you do. See, when I know my why, I actually could do my job a little bit better because the work becomes meaningful, the work becomes joyful, the work becomes purposeful. But if you don't really pay attention to it, then you can't really have an intention to do the work. When I say that, you have to pay attention to those things in your lives that's starting to try to talk to you. See, it's that little inner man on the inside. Some people call it tuition. I call it God because I believe that He governs and He leads me into where I need to go. But aligning with my why really starts with me having to discover who I really am. See, there are stages in your life that you are going on your journey. You're just too busy to even slow down to see who the person that you are. And I know many of you probably know what I'm talking about. You're so busy helping other people. You're so busy giving out. You're so busy grinding that you've never taken a moment to pause to understand who you really are. And so that is really where I'm headed right now, because in order for you to find your why, I'm going to give you 3 wisdom gems that I believe that will help you to align with your why. And I think this is so important, especially after everything that we've been through, especially in the nursing profession in particular. And I'm going to say really any profession in particular, when you start ignoring the signs of something trying to tell you to do something different, to level up, or to stay where you are and begin to start finding the joy, finding the meaning within where you are until you get to where you're going. Okay, I know I'm using a lot of words, but I know those that resonate with this understand what I'm talking about, because we were born to do something great. We were born, we were destined to impact lives. See, I know that. I know for a fact, like I've known that for a while, that I was born to do something great. And that's not a braggadocious statement. It's a knowing in your knowing that you've been called to do something way beyond yourself. And that's really where the journey that me personally, I'm headed. I'm headed to fill my life with things that bring so much joy and meaning that I'm constantly making a difference. Every interaction, every meeting, every person that I engage with. That's the type of intention that I set. So, with that being said, the starting point is to first know who you are. So it's a little bit of self-discovery. I talk about self-discovery, self-manifestation, and self-release. I believe those are such key. One of my mentors, Miles Monroe, Dr. Miles Monroe, he taught a series about self-discovery, self-manifestation, and self-release. I mean, he taught a bigger message, but what those 3 words jumped out at me as he was teaching. And so I've been since then just really unpacking what does those really mean to me and how did that impact my life? Because until you find who you are, and you will always be a counterfeit. You will always be a cheap replica of someone else. That's why it's so important for you to find out who you are. If you have never taken the time to find out who you are, what you love, what makes you wake up in the morning, what are your likes and what are your dislikes? Who are you really? When everyone else is gone, when everybody else is not there at dinner with you or kicking it with you, who are you really? Do you know who you really are? You see, knowing who you are is what motivates and inspires and drives you. It's so key for you to sustain your life's purpose. And so that's why I'm starting with that. And yes, there's going to be mountains. Yes, there's going to be valleys. Yes, there's going to be challenges. But if you make a commitment, you will become your highest version of yourself. And I always say, I am enough just the way that I am. I am enough. Do I have some growth and development to do? Absolutely. Because who I'm going to be it's going to require me to become someone different, a different mindset. And so that's why it's important for you to strive to be the highest expression of yourself. I mean, come on, you guys, like, let's get honest with this. You know good and well that you have wanted to do something for a long time, whether it be write a book, write a blog, do a podcast, even do an event. It's something, it's some kind of goal that you really want to do. But you know there's part of you that actually sabotages that work. Well, you know what? You can do it tomorrow. Oh, wait, I'm going to wait until the kids get done with this. I'm going to wait until I finish this and then I'll start, all of those excuses that we tend to make. And really, it's just a self-sabotaging behavior that we make. It's that inner critic on the inside of you. I also call it the enemy within. Les Brown, I love Les Brown. And he said one time, if there's no enemy within, the enemy without can do you no harm. So we fight these internal battles with ourselves when we know we have a dream in our heart, when we know we have something that we really want to do. But here we are, these voices begin to start talking to us. Well, you know what? You really don't have the degree to do that. You really are not smart enough to do that. Well, who's going to want to work with you anyway? You know, all of those voices. I don't need to go into it. Every one of you have those voices that challenge you every day. And so the first step that I want you to think about is that you're going to have to recognize the signs, recognize the restlessness, recognize when you're starting to get bored, when you're irritated for no particular reason, when you're frustrated, when you're a little bit like, okay, what am I going to do? I was looking at this quote, and the quote said, change is inevitable, but transformation is by conscious choice. And that is by Heather Amara. That is so, so true, because change is going to come whether you like it or not. But your position should be, I want transformation, because change is inevitable. It's coming regardless whether you're ready for it or not. But transformation is a choice. Transformation is intentional, deliberate, and on purpose. And so that's the stance that I take. I want to become the person that was destined to transform self and systems one heart at a time. See, there's something that I love about being the best and highest expression of myself. And it is a journey. I was interviewing one of the guests one time, and she talked about how you can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. And that's truly it. If you're always waiting for you to be ready to do something, you are not going to do it, because you're going to never feel like you're ready. So begin to start doing something regardless of how you feel, whether you're ready or not. Just move, just take action. So you got to recognize that uneasiness. Recognize the irritation that you're having. Recognize the unrest that you're having. You have to do that. So that's the first step. When you have a dream in your heart, or a desire in your heart, or a goal, or something that you want to do, you want to recognize the signs. Now, okay, here's another question. It literally just popped in my head. At the end of the day, and I want you to do some journaling. At the end of the day, when you finish work, are you any closer to the desires of your heart? Are you any closer to the thing that gives you meaning and purpose? I want you to answer that question, because only you can. And if you're not, then it's time for you to start paying more attention to you. And so the second one is get to know you. Yes, you. Stop trying to learn about everybody else. And I want you to get to know you, the person that you stare at every day in the mirror. I do mirror work. I look at myself in the mirror, and I had to do this because all the negative connotations that I can say about myself, I did that in the past. But when I start understanding how powerful me being able to say certain words to myself was, then that's what I started doing. I started actually looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, Charlene, I love you. Charlene, I forgive you. Charlene, you're enough. Now, why do I do that? I had to do that because there's voices in my head, the inner critic, telling me that I am not enough, telling me that I'm not who I say that I am. So you have to allow that inner coach, Coach Charlene, to coach that self-sabotaging mindset that tries to rise its head. And so I constantly do that. I constantly look because you have to forgive yourself for all of the past failures that you thought you should have done. Everything that I do, every failure that happens in my life, I learn from it and I grow from it. So I see it in a total different light. I don't see it like, oh my gosh, I'm failing so much. No, I'm not. I am seeing it as, you know what, there's another opportunity for me to learn something different. And that's really what it's about. It's about your mindset and how you want to see things, but you got to focus on you. Get alone by yourself. Me and my husband, we used to do this seminar called A Night to Dream. And one of the questions that we always ask, if money was no object, what would you be doing right now? And we had people journal that because quite honestly, and I'm not talking of moving beyond, oh, I'll get me this house. I'll go travel here. I'll buy these clothes. I'll do this. I'll do. No, I'm not talking about that. That's superficial. That's stuff. Talking about what really would you do if money was no object? Would you still be doing the same thing that you're doing today? Would you be in the same job? Would you be in the same city? You know, that's the kind of question that you want to unpack because what we're doing is we're trying to take the limits off. When you can start taking the limits off and don't see the barriers there, then you can really start dreaming and finding out what it is that you really want to do. So that was number 2. Get to know you and only you. Now, the third one is I want you to commit to becoming you. Remember, I shared a quote some time ago. I think it's Paul. Was it Pablo? Yeah, I think it was Pablo. But if you Google it, you'll know what I mean. And he said maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming, but it's about unbecoming everything that's not like you, so that you can become who you were destined to be. You have to peel off the layers of unrealistic expectations that others had on your life, that you had on your life. You have to carve away all of those things that are weighing you down so that you can become this brilliant diamond that you really were destined to be. So you have to make a commitment to your own growth, to your own development, to you. Spend some time alone with you. You don't need noise all the time in your life or people around you all the time. You have to get to a place where you're good with sitting with who you are. Now, if you sit with yourself and you do not like who you are, that's where the work begins. You have to get to a point where you love you regardless of who else loves you. See, that's self-acceptance, that's self-love, and it's so critical for you when you're trying to discover who you are. Because if you're always needing someone else to pat you on the back, you need someone else to approve you, you need someone else to like you before you move forward, then you are in a dangerous spot because you have to be able to move forward in your vision, regardless if anybody else is moving forward with you. Okay, let me pause there for a moment. As a visionary of a vision, a book, a project, or whatever it is that you're doing, you may see that vision better than anybody else can see it. And it's your responsibility to what you see on the inside to do that on the outside. Others may not understand what's going on right now because they haven't caught a hold of that vision that you have. But your responsibility as the visionary is to keep on doing what you see in your spirit, your dream. Keep doing that, and others will come that are supposed to be attached to it. So don't get discouraged when you have this wonderful dream and you have this wonderful book or project or whatever it is, and people don't show up for you. It's not about that. It's about you, the visionary, seeing the vision on the inside and then birthing it on the outside. So to become you is one of the hardest things that we have to do because we have had other people's expectations, what they want for our lives. We've had that and we've had to fight through that since we were young. That's how we grow up, through culture and authority. But What you really need to do is to say, okay, beyond that, I want to know, what does Charlene believe? Who am I when I'm all alone and going through challenges? Who's that person? Do you know who that person is? And yes, it takes some time to get to know who you are. And I encourage you to commit that time to yourself. And you know what? I'm going to give you one last little nugget. There is, I learned this so long ago, and it's called the 6 stages of commitment. Since we're talking about committing to you and committing to your dream, I want to give you these quick little points that will help you with that commitment to yourself. It's a commitment, any type of commitment that you make. These are the 6 things, the 6 Ds that I'd like you to consider. Number one, to have a defining moment. You have to have a defining moment. A defining moment is those moments that you know were divine, was like so in your intuition, in your spirit, that, okay, I gotta do this. I'll give you a little example. My husband, I knew that he was my husband. It's that knowing that no one else can tell you, like a business that you're starting. You knew that you're supposed to start it. That's a defining moment. And that moment, that defining moment is so critical, because in order for you to move forward and to move through the process of birthing, you have to have a defining moment. When you have a dream of a business in your heart, or a ministry in your heart, or whatever it is that you're doing in your heart, you have to know in your knower that this is what you're supposed to do. Because when you keep moving down the stages, the second stage is the decisive moment. Okay, so I have a dream in my heart. So now it's time for me to do something. And let me put it into the context of what we're talking about, that self-love, or finding out who you are. You know that you have to spend some time. First of all, I acknowledge that I got to learn more about me. So second, I have to decide to do something about that. I have to take the quiet time and sit with myself. I have to start journaling. I have to start paying attention to me when I get into interactions that may be negative, or what things that trigger me to be a certain way. That's the work that I'm talking about in that particular area. It's a decisive moment. And the decisive moment, when you think about a dream, is, okay, I know the dream. I heard the dream. I wrote the dream down. And now I have to decide to do something about it, right? That's the decisive moment. The third one is the distasteful moment. The distasteful moment, you guys, is a tough moment, because literally offenses are going to hit us left and right all the time. People are going to offend us. Systems are going to offend us. Everything in life has the potential to offend you. But when I define my moment and I make a decision to do something, I have to handle this distasteful moment of offense well. I have to, yes, you may have to deal with some things and address a few people, etc. Have the conversation, but don't hold on to that bitterness. Don't hold on to that, this, whatever it is. Most of the time it's, you're holding on to an offense, and it becomes bitterness in your soul. Then your soul is getting weighted down with this heaviness that you don't need while you're trying to forge through and birth your vision. So that is the distasteful moment. But I'm hoping that you guys can move through that. It's a process, of course. You have to deal with forgiving people and doing all of that kind of stuff. But it's critical, because you do not want a person to affect your dream. Do not allow any person, any human being, any situation to affect your dream to the point where you stop and you don't move forward. If you don't handle that distasteful moment, you slip into the fourth moment, which is the deceptive moment. And in the deceptive moment, that's where your eyes become dim about your own vision. You start losing sight of your dream, of what you first intended to do, because of the challenges that you're facing, because of the hurt that you're experiencing. Instead of you moving past that and allowing the practice of forgiveness to happen, you hold on to it, and you really get to a point of where you step away from your vision, because now you're blind and you can't really see, because you've allowed offense to come in and harbor in your heart and create unforgiveness and all of the other things that go with that. And then the fifth moment is the dying moment. And the dying moment is more so saying that, you know what, if I'm going to be the best and highest expression of myself, I'm going to have to allow this old Charlene to die, the old mindset to die, and the new Charlene, the one that's being birthed through self-discovery, self-manifestation, and self-release to become that particular person. You have to die to the old in order to birth the new. And so that's what the dying moment. And the dying moment when it comes to your dream means that, you know what, if you're working, you're going to have to do the work beyond the work. You're going to have to spend some time, whether it be 20 minutes a day working on your dream. You got to start somewhere. And so I encourage you to do that. That's where you die to your time clock and your schedule and wanting to watch TV, perhaps. Stop watching TV and get your journal out and start working on your dream. And then the last moment is the destiny moment, which is really all of us really want to be. And that is finding out that, wow, I landed in here. I'm doing the work that's fulfilled in my life. I'm making a difference, just like I had dreamed that I would make a difference. That's where you're really in the flow and you're working and you feel like you're bringing value to your environment and you're impacting lives that you know that you were destined to impact. So those were the 6 stages of commitment. So commit to you. You are so valuable. You are so important to those that you are connected to. And so I'm encouraging you, when you're trying to align with your why, go back to the beginning. And that's the original reason that you were created. But in order to do that, you got to recognize the unrest. You got to recognize that, oh my God, this is really irritating me now. I'm frustrated about this. And, you start doing all of the inner chatter. So instead of just doing that, recognize it once you see that you're doing it, and then pause and try to get down to that common denominator of what's going on. See, have you lost joy? See, have you lost meaning? See, have you lost the passion that you once had? You have to deal with that part first. And then the second part that I told you is you have to get to know you, and then you have to commit to you. Okay, great. It was a wonderful session. Thank you so much. I encourage you to subscribe. And if any of this resonated with you, I would love to hear some comments. I also have a YouTube channel, and I would love for you to go over to my YouTube channel and subscribe. I'm going to be doing some amazing things, and you will be hearing more from me in addition to my guests, because I believe that I have been on this journey of personal development and the highest expression of myself for so long, and that I definitely feel like I could encourage and inspire you to become the best and the highest expression of you. So subscribe, and share in the comments. And of course, I would love for you to give me a rating as well, because I believe that this is a 5-star conversation. So anyway, you take care, and I'll see you over to the next episode.